Is Tennessee football a top 25 team post-spring practice? The answer might not be what you want to hear, but that's okay. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. Your Wednesday morning Locked On Vols, presented in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Voice sounds a little bit better today. It was not even this good yesterday, so again, sorry about that. I know I say this all the time. I know when you roll your eyes when I say this, but if you're new to the show, I just want to kind of explain myself. We're all human, right? When you talk behind a microphone for a living every single day, it is really hard to preserve your voice. So I did what I did not want to do yesterday. I did not do a show, and I rested my voice, and I'm able to get out there and do a show today. So it's still not up to 100%, but we are on our way. Appreciate your patience. Sorry for the inconvenience. We are going to answer your mailbag questions, so not today. We'll do it tomorrow. I promise we'll get there. So if you have any more, send them in at _Cain and a Locked On Vols. Got a fun show coming up here today, though. In segment number 1, is Tennessee a top 25 team post-spring practice? One college football personality says, shocker when you hear the name. That's coming up here in a matter of seconds. College football head coaching rankings from USA Today. Josh Heupel slided on down the list of the rankings. I'll tell you why that is completely incorrect in segment number 2. And then we'll get into Josh Ward for our Ward Wednesday hit in segment number 3. All that and more right here on a Wednesday Locked On Vols. So is Tennessee a top 25 football team post-spring practice? Tennessee's got a lot of questions they don't have answer to right now. We don't know who QB1 is going to be for Tennessee. I mean, I'm putting my money on Joey Aguilar because he's got the experience. However, Jake Merklinger's got the experience in the system. George McIntyre's got a lot of upside, but I don't think it's going to be him. My point is, we have, for the first time in 4 off seasons, there's going to be a quarterback competition. And for Joey Aguilar, it's going to be very accelerated because the hope is that he gets on campus next week, but still didn't have spring practice, learning the system, learning the coaching staff, learning the terminology, learning his teammates. A lot of questions there. So that's just a quarterback. What about on the offensive line? How's David Sanders going to come along at right tackle? Larry Johnson transferred out. Larry Johnson was going to split time with David Sanders to begin the season. We know Tennessee doesn't care to split time at right tackle. They had 2 right tackles a season ago. But how does David Sanders, the 5-star plus offensive tackle, come along as the season moves along? Is William Satterwhite going to be the center? Is he going to be good enough to hold down that spot all year long? How do the transfers come in, and Wendell Moy and Sam Pendleton? Is there a better version of Sam Pendleton playing center and maybe Amorrow playing guard? There's questions on the offensive line. Wide receiver, obviously. Only 7 scholarship wide receivers right now, and they've looked at some guys via the transfer portal, but nothing is stuck and nothing has really been working out in that regard here this spring. So there's questions at wide receiver. Cornerback, I mean, obviously, Jamal McCoy's coming off injury. They did address that with Colton Hood coming over from Colorado to add some depth. So you got Jalen McMurray, Colton Hood. Of course, you got Ricky Gibson. That makes you feel a little bit better about cornerback while Jamal McCoy is still working himself back from injury. When will he be ready to go? We'll see. Safety, a lot of guys transferred out this spring. Jacoby Thomas, Christian Charles, John Slaughter. But Andre Turrentine, you knew Caleb Beasley was going to play. You knew Idris Farouk was going to play. And then you got a lot of these freshmen that you feel good about, plus Boo Carter at star. Linebacker, I feel good. Defensive line, I feel good. You know, Miles Kitselman's still coming back from injury. But my point is, I kind of went through the roster there, position group by position group, and there's still so much that I like. Albeit, I hear you, there's a ton of questions. And from the outside looking in, take Joel Klatt, who is a huge SEC hater, a big-time Big Ten homer, okay? I'm going to look at his post-spring practice top 25 here in a second and kind of base this conversation around that. But just look at him and look at any national perspective. You're looking at Tennessee, okay? First and foremost, Nico Iamaleava leaves your program at the very end of spring practice, and your starting quarterback that helped lead your team to a college football playoff. I know, great running game. I know, great defense, but you can't erase facts. He was your starting quarterback for a team that just went to the CFP. He leaves your program, right? And so that is a massive, massive loss. And I get it. He didn't live up to expectations. Was he worth the money Tennessee was paying him? Not in year one. Okay, I think the jury's still out in that regard because again, I think that he's very talented, but he was still your starting quarterback. Okay, so you can't erase facts. So that is one huge domino that, from a national perspective, you're sitting there like, ding, man, I got to take points off for Tennessee right there. They don't have a quarterback. Another one, you look at no Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson was an absolute workhorse for Tennessee last year. For the first time, with Josh Heupel in this offense, Tennessee had a true workhorse at running back, and that being Dylan Sampson. I think it's going to go back to, split share back in the backfield, led by Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis. We'll see about Star Thomas this year. But you're losing out on Dylan Sampson that was a phenomenal football player last year. However, I love this group of running backs. I really, really do. I think Deshaun Bishop, when healthy, now durability is an issue there. I think he's a really solid running back in this league. I think Peyton Lewis is got the makings of a really solid running back in this league. And I think Star Thomas has been nothing but productive at every single stop along the way of his college career. So the accumulation plus DeJuan Morris, the accumulation of tailbacks in that room, I like an awful lot. Okay? Move on to wide receiver. That's where everybody's worried about right now. Tennessee's got 7 scholarship wide receivers, and that's not that big of a deal. But if you get hit by the injury bug, 1 or 2, you're in trouble. You really are. And that's why I cannot believe that Tennessee has not signed a wide receiver in the transfer portal. They signed Amari Jefferson, obviously, in December. They should have added another one. And again, not just going and throwing all this money at somebody that you don't think is worth it. I respect that. But end of the day, sure, your rotation's always small at wide receiver, but you're an injury or 2 away from being in trouble. But having said all that, Dante Thornton was the big play receiver. He was phenomenal last year, but he was hardly on the field. He was injured all the time. Brew McCoy, injured, banged up a little bit, underperformed. Squirrel White, underperformed. Tennessee's wide receivers as a collection did not play well. So in my opinion, and maybe this is wrong to say, the bar's not high. Like Tennessee's wide receivers this year can be better. So my point is, in all this regard, yes, there are questions about the roster. However, I still like this roster for Tennessee. But then you look at Joel Klatt, and you look at his college football post-spring top 25. Number 1 is Penn State. Okay. Number 2 is Texas. 3 is Ohio State. 4 is Oregon. 5 is Clemson. You mean to tell me that one team from the SEC cracks your top 5? You kidding me? One team from the SEC cracks your top 5? That is embarrassing even for the biggest SEC haters such as Joel Klatt. Penn State, good program. Penn State number 1 post-spring practice? You kidding me, right? Jeez, how embarrassing is that? Notre Dame 6, LSU 7. LSU in front of Georgia? Okay. Okay, that makes no sense. Alabama at 9. Illinois at number 10. Illinois is a fine program. Illinois at number 10? What is this? South Carolina at 11, a bit too high. Michigan at 12 in front of Florida at 13. Remember, Florida's over under, 6.5? Maybe 7.5. I don't have it in front of me. BYU at 14. Arizona State at 15. Kansas State at 16. Iowa State at 17. Miami at 18. Texas A&M at 19. Ole Miss at 20. Indiana at 21. I think that's fair for Indiana. Auburn at 22. What are we doing? Iowa at 23. Baylor at 24. And Oklahoma at 25. This collection of top collection is my theme, my buzzword here in segment 1. Excuse me. This collection of teams that comprise this top 25 from Joel Klatt is not very good. Now, as you can tell, Tennessee did not make that top 25. And that's okay because of everything that I just mentioned leading up to this point in segment number 1. It's okay. Guys, let me ask you something. Tennessee was probably not going to be ranked, 15th or 16th anyway. Maybe with Nico they would have been. But if you're ranked 21st or 22nd, is there really a difference in these way too early preseason top 25? I guess it's not way too early anymore. But is there really any difference in these preseason top 25s if you're 21st or 22nd compared to 26th or 27th? No. No, there's not, in my opinion. These don't matter. So the only thing that matters is the first CFP poll that comes out at the beginning of November. You need to be in good position at that point, and that's kind of your starting point. So this doesn't matter in my opinion, and I get it, and it's okay. Tennessee's got a ton of questions right now, especially the biggest one being no clue about a quarterback. Joey Aguilar, a lot of experience, group of 5 level, never done it in the Power 4, never done it in the SEC. Jake Merklinger has played in 2 games in his career, and it was in mop-up duty. George McIntyre has never suited up for a college football game. There is a ton of questions, so I get it. I'm not super upset. I am more upset in this Joel Klatt top 25 that it's just an abysmal ranking to begin with. One team from the SEC in your top 5, Penn State number 1, LSU in front of Georgia. I mean, we can go on and on here. I mean, I think he got Indiana right. I think that he got A&M right. I think, back half towards the top 25. I think Oklahoma deserves to be in the top 25 there at the very end. I mean, all those are fair in my opinion. But that top 10, Illinois at 10, are you kidding me? I'm not upset that Tennessee didn't crack this top 25. They've cracked some other ones because there's a lot of questions here, and that is okay. But this top 25 from SEC hater Joel Klatt, whoo, man, oh man. Man, oh man. They talk about an abysmal ranking in my opinion. Okay, when we come back, Josh Heupel, where should he be ranked in terms of the best college football head coaches? USA Today put out our rankings earlier this week, and I'll tell you why. No respect for Tennessee's Josh Heupel. That's coming up next as we continue on here. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to that next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them to top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or if you need a long-term partner, Upwork makes the hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you to the best freelance expert who delivers incredible results. It's fast and easy. You post your job free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates you can choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with some of the top talent and grow your business today. Again, that is Upwork.com. So it's the offseason, and we've already gone through a bunch of lists, right as soon as the football season was over back in January. We kind of reset those lists at the end of spring practice. That's kind of where we are now. These lists will be rejuvenized and re-energized and reset again over the summer leading into fall camp and all that and more. But here we are. That's what we do in the offseason. And the latest such list involves head football coaching rankings for college football. Okay. And Josh Heupel getting the disrespect from USA Today. USA Today, this is a list put together by a trio of individuals, Paul Meyerberg, Jordan Mendoza, and Blake Topmeyer. Blake Topmeyer still helping out with the Knox News Sentinel, but really more of a broader writer for USA Today Network. Kirby Smart there's the number 1. Okay, hard to argue that. Ryan Day's the number 2. Just won a national championship. Okay. Dabo Sweeney, number 3. Steve Sarkisian, number 4. James Franklin, number 5. Again, James Franklin probably too high. We say this every single year. James Franklin probably too high. Now, Penn State did get a college football playoff berth, so there's that. But still, I think James Franklin's probably too high. Dan Lanning there at Oregon's up there at number 6. A lot of success. Marcus Freeman, who just had a college football playoff national championship appearance, he's there at number 7. Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's at number 8. I get it. All he does is win. I get it. He's played for he's coaching a national championship game. I get all that. But the first year at Alabama, it wasn't a train wreck. It wasn't a complete disaster. Everybody and their mother over at ESPN was lobbying for Alabama to get in the playoff. It wasn't a train wreck. It wasn't, but it was not what I would call a success either. So Kalen DeBoer being there at number 8. Okay, Lane Kiffin should be in front of him for sure. Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, 1,000%. Lane Kiffin should be in front of DeBoer. Lane Kiffin should be in front of DeBoer, in my opinion. Brian Kelly, you guys know my hatred of him coming in there at number 10. Very overrated. very overrated. LSU did less with more last year than anybody I've ever seen. LSU was kind of that darling team last year in the offseason. I mean, I was high on LSU. I like their quarterback. I still like their quarterback. I love their defense. I think they have two of the better linebackers in all college football. They don't know where to play Harold Perkins, obviously. But they had a lot of pieces, and they went, 8-4? Like, what are you doing there? Like, why on earth is LSU ranked in front of Florida and Georgia? In Georgia, in that poll that we just looked at from Joel Klatt. Makes no sense. Brian Kelly's there, number 10. Matt Campbell, Iowa State's number 11. Can always make the case that he's a little bit overranked. Kyle Whittingham of Utah's number 12. Kurt Cignetti there at number 13. I think that's fair. Thank God they didn't put him in the top 10. He says all I do is win at every single stop, and then he goes and gets blown out in the college football playoff game. Easiest schedule in America, but they did make the playoffs, and they did win multiple games or double-digit games last year. I'm glad Kurt Cignetti is not in the top 10. I think 13 is fine. I think anywhere from 13 to 16 is fine. So I'll live with this one. Still no Josh Heupel, by the way. Kirk Ferentz at Iowa's over there 14. He is I'm going to do everything in the regular season, do nothing in the playoffs, but he's been doing it for decades upon decades upon decades. Chris Kleiman at Kansas State's at 15. Jeff Brom, Louisville, is at 16. And this was interesting, especially considering who comes in right behind Jeff Brom, all jokes aside, and that would be Josh Heupel of Tennessee. Jeff Brom, this is what USA Today has to say about Jeff Brom. Brom makes programs better, whether that's Western Kentucky, Purdue, or now Louisville. He'll make sure you're punching at or above your weight. His offense persistently thrives. Brom's career arc reflects a gradual, steady upward march. Now that Louisville native is home and coaching the Cardinals, he should settle in for a more consistent run in the ACC relevance. That's all fine. I'm not sitting here hating on Jeff Brom, but last time I checked, Jeff Brom hasn't had two 10-win seasons in the last 4 years. Last time I checked, Jeff Brom hasn't coached in an Orange Bowl. Last time I checked, and this is the most important thing, Jeff Brom has not coached in the college football playoffs. So the fact that this ranking has Jeff Brom in front of Josh Heupel, maybe it's just to throw shade at Tennessee fans. Maybe it's just to troll Tennessee fans. I don't know. But it's ridiculous, the fact that Jeff Brom, and again, I'm not trying to hate on the guy. I think he's a fine coach. But Jeff Brom in front of Josh Heupel, who comes in here at number 17, just flat out ridiculous. So Josh Heupel comes in here at number 17, and this is what the rankings had to say about Josh Heupel here at number 17. If Tennessee didn't hit rock bottom after firing Jeremy Pruitt amid the NCAA investigation, it at least could reach down and touch the bottom. Then Josh Heupel arrived and pulled the Vols out of peril. He's beaten Alabama twice, Florida as well. He jolted Tennessee's offense to life with a warp speed system. In a sign of coaching growth, he made the playoffs by building a good defense. He's a coach with a high floor, even if he might be nearing his ceiling. Okay, I mean, it's pretty complimentary there at the very end. Maybe some backhanded slights. High floor, which is really, really good, even though he might be nearing his ceiling. Okay, but there's a lot of truth in there. They said he came in, brought Tennessee out of peril. So true. Warp speed offense. It was much faster earlier on in his career, but still tempo. And then as a sign of coaching growth, he made a college football playoff appearance on a defense. And that's completely true. I mean, this defense, everybody talked about how the defense is awful for so long. And if you look at the stats, and I said this last offseason, I said it the year before, the stats continue to get better year after year. And then this year they took a massive step. Now, the next big step for Tennessee will be to show up in the big games defensively, right? Georgia, Tennessee's defense didn't play its best game. Ohio State, obviously, Tennessee's defense did not play its best game. Those are two big-time games where the Tennessee defense wishes that it had back. But nonetheless, the Tennessee defense was a top 10 defense last year. No ifs, ands, what's about it. So that's a big credit to Josh Heupel and his growth and evolution as a head coach, knowing who to hire, what to be putting in place, who to recruit, development of his staff, and all that and more. So Josh Heupel here at number 17. I promise, I do not feel bad. I know that the more and more I talk, the more and more my voice trails off. I have to pause and to get a sip of water. But, gosh, man, I hope my voice is getting there tomorrow for sure. Josh Heupel at 17, way too low. Again, he should be in front of Jeff Brom. He should be in front of Chris Kleiman. Kleiman obviously has been very, very successful in terms of, what he's done as head coach at Kansas State. But still, Kirk Ferentz, I think he should be in front of him. Signetti, again, anything you do at D2, I'm not going to take into consideration, okay? I'm sorry. I'm just not. You had a great first year at Indiana. That was fantastic, but is what it is. I think Josh Heupel should be closer to the top 10. Somewhere around 11 to 13 is where I'd have Josh Heupel. I'd have him in front of Signetti. I'd have him in front of Winningham. I'd have him on par with Matt Campbell probably. Again, here's a simple question. You just need to ask these. What New Year's Six bowl games have these coaches coached in most recently? Josh Heupel, obviously, in an Orange Bowl. And then have any of these coaches between Josh Heupel and kind of the plateau I'm looking at like 11 or 12, have they coached in a college football playoff game recently? Only 2 of them have. So, again, the Josh Heupel should be well up there. And the fact that he's behind Jeff Brom is just atrocious. In case you're wondering, Matt Rule comes in at number 18. Why? What has Matt Rule done in his, 2-3 years at Nebraska that would give anybody thought that he's a top 25 coach in America? In fact, Michigan is self-imposing their head coach as a suspended game. One of those games he suspended against Nebraska. What's that say about the way Michigan views Nebraska? Not very highly, right? Brett Bielema there at number 19. BYU's coach there at number 20. Lance Leipold there at 21 of Kansas. SMU's coach there at number 22. Lincoln Riley, boy, how the mighty have fallen. Come in there at number 23. Eli Drinkwitz, number 24. Mario Cristobal, Miami, is there at number 25. Just missing the cuts. Dan Mullen of UNLV. Bronco Mendenhall of Utah State. Jeff Monken of Army. And Kenny Dillingham of Arizona State. So what do you think? Where is Josh Heupel? Where should he be ranked in terms of the best college football head coaches? USA Today has him at number 17. Again, way too low. And again, this is what they had to say about Josh Heupel. If Tennessee didn't hit rock bottom after firing Jeremy Pruitt amid an NCAA investigation, it at least could reach down and touch the bottom. Then Josh Heupel arrived and pulled the Vols out of peril. He's beaten Alabama twice. He's jolted Tennessee's offense to life with his warp speed system. And a sign of coaching growth, he made the college football playoffs by building a good defense. He's a coach with a high floor, even though he might be nearing a ceiling. That is what USA Today had to say about Josh Heupel. They ranked him 17. I think that's incredibly too low. What do you think? We'd love to hear from you guys right here on Locked On Vols. Hey, when we come back, Josh Ward, what does he think about this? Where does Josh Ward think that Josh Heupel should be ranked? And what does Josh Ward think about Joel Klatt's top 25 with no Tennessee mention? All that and more coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on that action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Obviously, you got the NBA playoffs going on right now. Don't forget Major League Baseball is happening right now. Your favorite team. I try to keep up with the Atlanta Braves every single night. If I'm not watching them, I'm listening to them here on the app, or on one of the apps I have. I'm following the box score and all that. And I see players who have been playing pretty well here lately, or pitchers who have been playing pretty well lately. And so if you've got a read on who's heating up on your favorite team, why not back that up with a same game parlay? How could $200 in bonus bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet wins? So NBA, sure. MLB every single night. So much opportunity to put some coin in your pocket. All right, new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head on over to FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And again, it's where you can make every moment more over at FanDuel. Josh Ward, a lot going on right now. It is list season. I know you and Jason Swain, VFL, have been talking about it on your radio show, The Sports Animal, noon to 3 weekdays. But I've kind of been doing that here on today's show. But before we get into where Tennessee falls on some of these lists, or where Josh Heupel shows up on some of these lists, I want to get your thoughts on Tennessee's new basketball assistant coach in Amaro Morgan, Rod Clark leaving to go to Indiana. Rick Barnes pretty much said, hey, we got to figure it out on the Big Orange Caravan. And lo and behold, it was Friday morning when it became official. Your thoughts on Tennessee's new basketball assistant coach and kind of joining a coaching tree that's been pretty good over the years here at Tennessee with Rick Barnes?
I thought Rod Clark did a good job at Tennessee in helping bring in talent. He was very valuable in that role with what he did for Tennessee. With him leaving, Rick Barnes knew he needed to go get an assistant coach that could help with bringing in talent. And Amaro Morgan looks to fit that profile exactly. Well thought of as a coach as well as a recruiter. One national writer praised him as being a guy that can go get talent. And that's what Tennessee's going to continue to need. And they have a staff that works on that. And Rick Barnes is a coach with that ability himself. But somebody that can help lead the way, that has the energy, this new world that we're in, where it's the transfer portal and it's recruiting, all of that is something that you need help with as a head coach. And Amaro Morgan coming in, I think he was valued as that when he was going to Florida State. His track record at Cal, getting talent there like Stojakovic, he can now help Tennessee do that with the resources that will be available.
Yeah, I can't remember if we spoke on this last week, so apologies if we did, but kind of weird. And I mean, everybody's got a situation that's different. Maybe he got a raise, maybe he got a bit of a promotion, but it's weird you want to leave Tennessee if you're Rod Clark to take a lateral move to Indiana, which is a very prestigious basketball program. I get that, but it's kind of a weird move in my opinion. But I mean, everybody's got to do what they got to do, right?
For sure. And I don't know the exact dollar amount at Tennessee compared to Indiana right now. Yeah. Don't know exactly how he and Rick Barnes viewed everything. And going to Indiana is a big-time program that is going to have resources. So if there's either an added opportunity, or there's often the story of a coach wants to move around and you create different connections and restart some kind of clock. That's typically more for a head coach than an assistant, but coaches move around all the time. That is not uncommon. So what happened with Rod Clark is not uncommon here.
All right, let's get into some of these list season topics. Tennessee dropping 4 spots in the latest way too early top 25 per ESPN, coming in at number 20 with Native Mint, Jacoby Gillespie, Amari Abram, Jalen Carey, Felix Agpara, along with the returners and this signing class. Do you think this is a top 20 team? Do you think that's fair right now?
I definitely think it's a top 20 team. That feels too low to me. Yeah. And I know that part of it with Tennessee is, okay, it's a lot of new pieces. They have to come together, build chemistry, all of those things. That is true. That also applies to a lot of teams. I think the talent of Native Mint coming in, I think the experience that Jacoby Gillespie has as an all Big Ten point guard, having gone to the Sweet 16 at Maryland, coming in to a program he's familiar with to help play the role. I mean, it's the lead role of replacing Zakai Ziegler, plus other pieces that come in to fit what Tennessee needs, like Jalen Carey in the front court, JP Estrella returning from injury, and then guards that can come in and help shoot on the wing. Tennessee is a deeper team than a year ago, and they still have to prove how that talent can come together. And can they be a top 5 level team like this past year's squad? That's to be determined. But that's a pretty big gap between can they be top 5 to where they might be ranked at number 20. So I think Tennessee is more of a top 15 toward the top 10 in terms of what the roster is and what the potential is of this upcoming team.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in the country is doing that. I mean, Tennessee's done that the last couple of years. I mean, you've got there's not many Zakai and Jemai's out there that stay for 4 years and kind of you build your program on their backbone a little bit. It's moving around, guys leaving via the transfer portal, having to bring in 4 or 5 new guys. I mean, everybody in the country is doing that, not just Tennessee. So good point there. Let's shift gears to football a little bit. And, we're seeing a lot of, post-spring practice, top 25s, the latest this week, that everybody's talking about, including us on this show. Joel Klatt does not have Tennessee in his top 25. And my question for you is, to me, that's not a big deal, right? Because if I'm looking at it from a national perspective, you lost Nico. Wow, huge loss, right? Dylan Sampson, huge loss. James Pierce, huge loss. Dante Thornton, you've lost a lot of pieces. And then you lost your QB1 at the end of spring practice. So, they don't know they don't know the intricacies that went into, the offensive line having a split time last year. It might be better this year or so on and so forth. To me, that's not a big deal that Tennessee's not in a post-spring top 25 because if they're not in the top 25, they're probably 27, 28 at worst, in my opinion. And to me, there's no difference in 21 to 22 to 27, 28.
Yeah, you're right that there's not. I do think Tennessee's deserving of being a top 25 team. The quarterback change is easily the biggest deal here. That's the biggest knock in how Tennessee's viewed, as you've pointed out. So that I get. I think from a roster standpoint, when you look at the team talent rankings, those type things that come out and will probably be updated if they haven't already this summer, Tennessee will be, my guess is top 15 to top 20. But the quarterback position is a question. That's why some of the SEC teams that are ahead of Tennessee are obvious choices. Some are more questionable. I think an interesting team in conversation, I've seen actually a wider range, but Auburn, it has Jackson Arnold coming in as a transfer, but that's to be determined. Now they did bring in Eric Singleton to go with Cam Coleman. But I think Tennessee, from a roster standpoint, with the defensive talent, with guys returning on that side of the ball, as that side led Tennessee to the playoff a year ago, that should allow Tennessee to be considered a top 20 to top 25 at least team, with the offense still having an opportunity to prove what it can do. We talked about on the show, I still believe there's a high floor benefit of the doubt to Josh Heupel and what the offense will be. It would stun me if the offense just falls apart and is dreadful, even with the quarterback change, because they do have an experienced guy coming in and they do have talent, albeit young, at the skill positions. So I think the roster itself is top 25 for sure. The potential is top 15, make a run at the college football playoff. That's a combination of the roster and the talent itself and the schedule that Tennessee will play.
Yeah, I mean, I would have Tennessee ranked inside the top 25, probably somewhere around 19 to 23 or something, but because I'm high on the roster, as you pointed out. But again, from a national perspective, that are, in on the ground every single day, know everything about this team. Yeah. Losing your quarterback at the end of spring, especially with the name of Nico, I mean, that's enough to drop you out of the top 25. Plus,
and by the way, questions are fair. If you're saying, okay, the potential's there for the wide receivers, but there is very little returning production, that's true. There is potential at running back with a second-year guy and Peyton Lewis and then Deshaun Bishop coming back. There's potential there for sure. But that's to replace Dylan Sampson, who had one of the best individual seasons in Tennessee and SEC history. So that's very true. Then you go into offensive line questions of guys that have to be replaced. Ton of potential, but a ton of questions from a national standpoint. That's going to knock Tennessee when the one returning mark was the quarterback position. Now all of a sudden that is added to the list of questions.
You mentioned floor for Josh Heupel, benefit of the doubt and all that. USA Today put out their updated head coaching rankings heading into the 2025 season. Excuse me. Josh Heupel there, number 17. Bit too low in my opinion. I'm not going to go through all these, but guys like Matt Campbell, Kyle Whittingham, Kurt Cignetti, Kirk Ferentz, Chris Klein. You make the case for a lot of these guys. Who you can't make the case for, in my opinion, is Jeff Brom, who's right in front of Josh Heupel. I'm not saying Jeff Brom's a bad coach, but Jeff Brom right in front of Josh Heupel. Like, what are we doing here? I think Josh Heupel's 17th ranking way too low. I think he's closer to the top 10, just given his track record. I mean, USA Today gives him a lot of props here, saying that they brought Tennessee out of peril, showed coaching evolution, relying on a defense going to the college football playoff. He's got a couple of 10-win seasons. I thought the 17th ranking for Josh Heupel on this list, way too low. Again, I'm not saying he should be top 8, but 17, come on, what do you think?
Well, yeah, it mentioned he might be approaching his ceiling, which maybe that's true. Maybe, I don't know. But it's a little bit surprising that he's not being rewarded, I would say, for going to the playoff last year and having 2 10-win seasons in the last 3 years, because doing that in the SEC is better, in my opinion, than what Jeff Brom has done. It's a very difficult task because there are some coaches below Josh Heupel that I also think have a case to be higher in the ranking. Brett Bielema, a spot or two behind him. His overall resume is really impressive. What he did at Wisconsin, now that's years ago. With what Josh Heupel's done at Tennessee, that's recent. But trying to compare Heupel to Kirk Ferentz is probably difficult because Ferentz has done it for so long and has been consistent. And it's Iowa where the expectations are not as high. But Heupel inherited a situation where the expectations were really low by typical Tennessee standard, right? So I agree. He deserves a higher ranking. It's also very difficult because so many coaches, they could make a strong case. Top 10 might be difficult for Josh Heupel, but 17 too low. I think based on what he's done, even with a shorter track record, is deserving of a top 15 case. I think one that upset Tennessee fans, and it's an interesting conversation because of the time, but also what's happened recently, Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's top 10. He's a very good offensive coach. He's done, I think, a terrific job at Ole Miss. But also last year was supposed to be a playoff season. They had disappointing losses at home to Kentucky, finished 9-3, finished outside the playoff. So just last year, Heupel had a better season than Lane Kiffin. Overall, though, Kiffin's done a terrific job at Ole Miss. Has he done a 10-spot better job, 8 to 10 spots? I'm not sure about that.
See, I made the point earlier in the show that I think Lane Kiffin should be ahead of Kalen DeBoer. Maybe that's a hot take, but
yeah, DeBoer's interesting because year one they wanted to do more. He took Washington to the national title game, though, and that's so difficult. And DeBoer's so well thought of offensively. DeBoer and Kelly are interesting because they're well thought of. They're highly ranked. But Brian Kelly at LSU, Kalen DeBoer this year, they're going to go in with high pressure. It's only year 2 at Alabama, but it's Alabama coming off the Nick Saban era. So they will have an opportunity to earn their top 10 rankings and even move up this year. If not, their own fan bases will say move them back.
Brian Kelly, the guy that does less with more than anybody in the country, that is Brian Kelly. Hey, Josh, what do you guys got coming up the rest of the week on Josh and Swain, noon to 3 on The Sports Animal?
Yeah, a lot of off-season talk projecting toward this upcoming season. Also, as this week goes along, we'll look ahead more to the Tennessee-Vanderbilt series, the importance of it for Tennessee baseball. So that matters a lot to the fans with only a couple of regular season weekends to go. But all kinds of football, basketball talk, and everything going on with Tennessee athletics, 12 to 3, Monday through Friday on Josh and Swain. Also available anywhere you get your podcast.
As always, man, thanks so much.
Thanks, Eric.
That is Josh Ward. Ward Wednesday. We do it every single Wednesday right here on Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here. Voice better today, hopefully better tomorrow. So I appreciate you guys listening to how bad and gross I sound. Apologies there. It happens. We will answer your questions on tomorrow's show. I know I've been asking them for a couple of days. We'll get into the mailbag edition of the show coming up on Thursday. Appreciate you guys for being here. Subscribe to the show. Tell your friends about Locked On Vols. This is the number one spot for Tennessee fans for news and entertainment daily throughout the week. This is Locked On Vols.